there are those who say that you are imposing these furloughs, bringing pain to the American people for the purpose of shifting political blame for the difficulties caused, a little bit like shutting down the Yellowstone National Park to draw attention to the problem, needlessly so. What do you say about that?
That's not true. We are focused on maintaining our core operational and safety responsibilities and doing it to the best extent that we can, given the constraints of the furlough. Recognizing that 70% of our operations budget is people and that the FAA is an operating agency, our effort has been to do everything that we can to cut in other areas before we hit our safety critical functions that are carried out by people. Those are air traffic control, maintaining the airway system, and maintaining the highest levels of aviation safety. The hardest thing that we have to do is reduce these hours, but in order to hit the target we need to hit, we don't really have any choice.
All of this is a surprise to the committee, to the subcommittee, to the Congress, to the world. We read about it in the newspaper. And this subcommittee and the Appropriations Committee, of course, is the committee that has to find ways to fund the government's operations, and yet you didn't tell us about what you plan to do. How come?
Mr. Chairman, we've been talking about this since February. We've talked about our need to reduce our contract expenditures and thereby to withdraw federal funding and close federal contract towers. At that time, we also talked about the need to furlough our employees, and we said that that would lead to significant delays up to 90 minutes at major hub facilities. As our planning has continued and we've done more granular analysis, those discussions have continued. And now we are at the place where we actually have to take the actions in order to achieve the savings. These are all bad choices. I'll be the first to acknowledge that. But in order to comply with the guidelines of the sequester law, we have to take these actions.
I wish you'd told us earlier, so we would have had a chance to plan and perhaps try to find a way around the problem. Now, when you decided to close those 149 contract towers, you said then that your goal was to minimize the disruption to the maximum number of travelers. But when you decided to find savings in labor costs just now, you imposed 11 days of furloughs across all FAA employees, regardless of how critical those employees are to the mission of safe, efficient air traffic control. Can you explain it seems to me that we have some contradictory reasoning when it came to decisions regarding contract towers versus the FAA air control workforce, who are furloughed equally no matter how operationally essential they are. Can you explain that?
Yes. Let me take first the contract towers. Our focus on contracts was with the intent of minimizing the amount of furlough days that our employees would have to suffer through. In looking at our contracts, we focused on our largest areas of where we could achieve contract savings, and the third largest of those contracts are expenditures in our contract tower program. We decided to look at the lowest activity facilities, those towers that have fewer than 150,000 annual operations and 10,000 commercial operations. All but one of these towers currently operate for some portion of the day in a non-towered capacity. So they have existing rules on how to operate as a non-towered airfield. And so in the contract area, we felt that this was the most efficient way and the most effective way to achieve the savings we needed to achieve. Turning next, though, to the impacts on the FAA's workforce. Our effort on the contract side was to bring the furlough number down to 11 to ensure that we had to realize no more than one per pay period, or 10% of the available hours. And as we looked at the national airspace system, we did, in fact, consider whether we should look at a differential impact between facilities. What we came to the conclusion was that the national airspace system is an interconnected network. Weather phenomena or how aircraft are moved throughout the system does not make any distinction between large hub facilities and smaller facilities. An airplane may move from a small facility to a major hub, to another major hub, to another small facility. Its crew in the course of a day will travel from a wide variety of other facilities, and the purpose of this is for the airline to maximize the use of their assets and of their available employee hours. Conducting furloughs in an unequal fashion would still lead to disruption and delays throughout the system because of these network impacts and the relationships between the larger and the smaller facilities. Second, the effect of the sequester is basically a pay cut for controllers and technicians to do this, and to do this in any other way would cause even more disruption in the system. If you look at the long history of pay cuts in the airline industry, every single one has been applied equally to like groups of employees. Employees at different facilities still have to work together, and that's difficult when you're treating them inequitably. The fact is that over 70% of our operations budget is devoted to payroll, and the agency cannot put itself in the position of choosing winners and losers between airlines and where their hubs are located and geographic areas of the country relative to other areas.
One final question, Mr. Chairman. Air traffic control is funded in the air traffic organization within the FAA, which has $2.2 billion in non-payroll activities.
That's correct.
Including consultants, contracts, travel. Why weren't you able to find $387 million in sequester savings in that very sizable non-payroll budget?
We've looked at our non-payroll budget, and we have had dramatic reductions in that. Let's take that consultant line item that you reference, sir. The largest single consultant contract is a services contract that provides telecommunications infrastructure between all FAA facilities. Everything in that category are non-construction contracts. Our second largest contract is aviation flight service stations. And our third largest is our contract tower program. Where we have achieved cost savings are things like training, like travel, and within information technology as a result of efficiencies. But we simply could not get to the number we needed to get to without also looking at salaries. We've imposed a hiring freeze that's been in place since the start of the year, that became a total freeze at the beginning of March. We have canceled contracts with all of our contract employees, and all of our temporary employees have been laid off, all with the goal of minimizing the impact on payroll expenditures of FAA employees.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr.